You can go through your own personal industrial revolution in 90 days. You can come to a tech shop, take 20 to 30 classes, spend 10 hours a day, and in 90 days, you're going to be able to go from not knowing how to make anything to knowing how to make almost anything.
People have written books about doing that.
When you get a group of like 1,000 people that are doing that, you fundamentally change the economics in the city. So what's happened in the Bay Area? $10 billion in shareholder value, $2 billion in annual sales, $200 million in annual salaries have been created by members who have come in and picked up the skills they needed to start a business or to start an educational institution or to pursue their dreams. We are living in a completely new era. It's been completely unknown to man until just literally the last 4 or 5 years. So we're part of the maker movement, and it's really a grassroots, ground-up kind of activity where individuals start to realize these are the things I need to understand. These are the tools that I need access to. And so they reach out and they get the particular thing that they need. There's no hierarchy who says that for you to be an engineer, you have to take this many classes in engineering, these many classes in French, these many classes in world history. Like, you don't have to do that anymore. You can go to a tech shop or a general assembly, or you can go onto a MOOC, and you can get the minimum amount of information you need to move your project to the next stage. Like Ford Motor Company, who has seen a 100% increase in high quality patentable ideas because they put a tech shop next to their facilities. Let's just change the world.
So, you want to go ahead and do this?
Yeah, the maker movement is accounting for billions of dollars worth of input to the economy. Estimated 29 billion each year. I'm going to go through these kind of quick because there's other things I want to talk about. But the maker movement is very important. In addition to the larger companies like MakerBot, there are many smaller companies and people that are selling in places like Grommet and Indiegogo, even places like eBay and Amazon Marketplace.
I think a real important piece of information is that 48% of the U.S. manufacturers are now contemplating reshoring. So they're thinking about bringing their companies back here. And as we go around and talk about the skills gap a lot, it's really important to understand, especially here in New England, and this is one of the things that as Steve said, we're evangelistic about the fact that we haven't really trained our younger generation to take these jobs. We're anticipating, currently there are 500,000 open jobs in advanced manufacturing in the U.S. today. And we really have to focus on the fact that this is very different than it used to be. This whole movement has changed tremendously.
Case in point, this was at the World Maker Fair in San Francisco. NASA was there in force. Now, NASA has found that as their older engineers retire, they've been hiring new, younger engineers from the best schools with the best grades. And unfortunately, these new engineers do not have the skills that the older engineers did. The older engineers built their own computers. They wrote the code for their computers. They worked on their cars. They had ham radios. They started, projects in their own garage and in their workshops. And most importantly, they had problem-solving abilities and hands-on experience. These guys, when faced with a seemingly insurmountable problem, would think outside the box and get it done. The new engineers do not have this experience. They don't understand how things actually get made and how to engineer things so that they can be made. They don't understand the problem-solving process, and unfortunately, they're having a hard time finding people that can do this type of stuff, and that's what the maker movement is all about.
Do you want to talk
learning how to do stuff
about the crossroads of the democracy of tools now? Do you want to?
For the first time in history, advanced tooling and machines are actually available essentially to the public. The cost has come down to the point where a CNC mill that might have been a couple $100,000 or a $500,000, you can buy things that are equivalent now from places like Haas, who have machines from $30,000 to $60,000, and companies like Tormach that have personal CNC mills that will do very good quality work for under $10,000. And places like a Makerspace offer access to over $1 million worth of equipment for something like $100 a month. Not only do you have access to the equipment, but you have access to training, from the very basic, how do I wire up an electric circuit, or how do I start learning about CNC, right up to advanced manufacturing. And that has changed the landscape. Never before have the tools of creation been so readily available. And a lot of that has to do with the software. It got very, very hard, and then it actually got easier as the software has matured. So things are possible now that just weren't possible in the past.
And the cost of failure when you're trying to get prototypes or things to the marketplace has also decreased tremendously. Often before you'd spend 85% of your seed money if you were bringing a prototype to the marketplace, and you'd have to go outsource usually to China to get that prototype created. Now people can go to a makerspace, learn how to use these tools, and spend maybe about 5% of their seed money. So there's some really nice implications towards innovation and economic stimulus through the potential of a makerspace as well. There are a lot of new platforms, such as Grommet and Kickstarter, so that people who have these particular innovations now can come to the marketplace through platforms. I'm sure you guys all know about Indiegogo and Grommet, Kickstarter, yeah.
Etsy, yeah.
Etsy.
So the maker movement is driving engineering into the mainstream. People are working collaboratively. They openly share their inventions online many times. This type of grassroots viral innovation is disrupting the status quo. And my wife made the mistake of saying the status quo one day by accident, so we were off and running with that.
So this is a real important, this talks about the old paradigm and the new paradigm, which really sums up this movement very quickly. Prior to this, we would go to our schools, our colleges and universities, get an education. Hopefully we'd be hired by a business. At that point, they'd either tell us to create an invention, or we would come up with that ourselves, and then the marketing department would push urgency and need on the consumers as well as the product. Now, consumers are educated. If they don't see what they want, they often become makers to create that product themselves. They then put their invention together, they create a business, and they get just enough education to forward not only their product, but their business skills as well. So that really sums up a lot of what's going on in the maker movement. There's not much that we haven't touched, from manufacturing to marketing to purchasing.
We're calling this, for lack of a better word, the new tech economy, because it's almost completely separate from the normal, traditional way things have been done in the past.
And we're going to go through these really quickly because Steve's giving me the 2-second finger here.
2 minutes. I'm going to skip that video. This is the innovation ecosystem. Government, large maker spaces are kind of the hub because they have the resources to really make a major difference in the local economy and policy and things like that. Labor unions, small maker spaces, libraries, museums, nonprofits, business, and I think community television would fit in this as well, in that you're in a good position to start having programming about the maker movement, and you're in a position to get the message out about why it's important, you know, and how to get involved in this.
This is Elizabeth Esty. I'll let you read it, but
I think I'm going to skip that one. The idea is to teach people skills. If you learn a useful skill in making, your portfolio now can get you into MIT. If you run something like a Kickstarter campaign in high school, that might be the way you actually get into a school of higher education. It's not all about grades and tests anymore. This is Megan Smith. She is the Chief Technology Officer of the White House. It is a new position. They recognize that it's important. She was previously the head of innovation, vice president of innovation at Google. If that's not a major player in the industry, I don't know what is. She's talking about education. We have wonderful teachers who can't disrupt their industry because it's so constrained and bureaucratic. We need to make school way less boring. Instead, a great way to learn is project-based learning, hands-on learning. Oops. We need to empower kids to be makers rather than consumers. Project-based learning is more effective, less expensive, and certainly more engaging.
And she goes on to say that the White House is tracking maker spaces right now to help with this initiative. This talks about coding. In the UK and in 5 other countries, they're teaching coding in elementary school. We don't need to know where we're teaching it, if at all.
Coding is absolutely crucial because everything today that's electronic runs on code, and it's a skill that you can pick up relatively easily. These are 2 initiatives that the White House has put out.
And basically, We're looking at New England right now has a lot of really great clusters and all of these things. If we don't train people to get into advanced manufacturing in these areas, we are going to lose all these businesses as they move to the Carolinas and other places. We're projecting 105,000 unfilled jobs in the next 10 years in Connecticut alone, which doesn't embrace all of New England, multiplied by a factor of 2.5, and those are all the manufacturing support ecosystems.
All right, so that's a little bit about why the maker movement's important. We do have a large display set up. We'd love to talk to you about exactly how we can collaborate and more about what a makerspace is, but I don't have time to do it now, unfortunately.
So today we've already been given a really great overview of some of the theoretical foundations that underpin these makerspaces, as well as some of the potential for what they could do. So what I'm specifically going to be talking about today is some strategies that we've employed at our makerspace, Makers at Amherst Media, to really build on and create social support systems in a way to serve the community. So one of the goals of our makerspace is to create what's called a town-gown partnership. Town being the community, gown being academia. We're in Amherst, so right in the center of the 5 colleges. So we want to kind of create this bridge between the universities and the community. So while these makerspaces might be new or innovative, there's really no reason why you can't draw on already existing community programs and community sites that already have really great social support. And by that I mean like support staff and social spaces that are really good environments for learning. So the creation of a makerspace in an access center is a really great example of that, where there's already this social support for learning, there's already these existing communities, and these spaces can then host makerspaces. So what creating all these connections can do for us is gives one, again, a great context of social support. You're meeting people where they are, where communities are already gathering, often in spaces where people already feel comfortable. So for example, the universities, like UMass, has a number of different spaces that could be called maker spaces, digital media labs, spaces that the engineering students use. And why those might be theoretically open to anyone's use, they don't often feel that way in practice. So we're trying to create a space in the community in which people can feel more comfortable going to. We also want to create these connections, though, because we want to have a local network that can draw on some of these resources and expertise that are kind of scattered throughout the community and in the universities. So finally, the real reason that we're kind of creating these different connections is to create opportunities for dialogue across interests, across disciplines. So using our makerspace as an example, I'm going to talk through some of the benefits of these social support spaces, building a local network, and seeking out every opportunity for dialogue. So in addition to the benefits, though, of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we've faced and continue to face in building this kind of a community space, and talk through, how we're trying to address some of those. So hopefully this will give you guys a nice model, perhaps, to think through in terms of trying to make these connections between different social spaces of learning. Next slide. Thank you. So our makerspace is made up of a few different activities. We have weekly drop-in hours at our makerspace at Amherst Media, so in the Access Center. We have workshops at Amherst Media. We also have an after-school program that's partnered with a local middle school. And then the Open Science course, which is run out of UMass, partnered with our makerspace, that brings in students from the 5 colleges to work on open science projects. So we have all these different activities here that are really working together, sharing resources, sharing expertise, and trying to bring together diverse publics that might not be talking to one another typically. So creating these kinds of bridges. So weekly drop-in, the first that I had up there, is really what I would call the cornerstone of our makerspace. Every Tuesday from 3:30 to 5:30, we have open time for anyone in the community to drop in. So some use it as a kind of resource. For others, kind of coming in to learn a little bit about different technologies or troubleshooting problems in a really informal environment. So we've had teachers come in to discuss their curriculum. College students drop in to install new OS on their computers or their laptops. We've had some high school students that were working on a project to come in and try to get some of their questions answered. We had a mother as well who was volunteering to teach an after-school robotics club, and she got stumped at one of the projects, so she came in and was actually working through it in our space so that she could bring it back and have those answers for the students that were in her club. But others are more consistent visitors to our space. They come to the space to really see it as a place to socialize and to learn. And the projects during drop-in really vary very widely. So we heard some examples of different kinds of maker spaces. Ours is completely open to whoever would like to use the space for whatever they're choosing to work on. So this is an example here. This group comes in almost every week to do Minecraft videos. So they play Minecraft and they tape themselves and then they talk, then they create a YouTube series of their videos. So they're doing some media work. And then we also have some groups that come in to do some of, I guess, what has been symbolizing the maker movement, some robotics projects. So this is a group here all working on different robotics projects in our space. And I call the drop-in the cornerstone, as it's our most consistent activity, and I think it's a really important space for intergenerational, interdisciplinary learning. Drop-in is really invaluable as it lets people from all different fields, all different interest areas, all different levels of expertise come in and work together. Because for our makerspace, people are the real resources. We don't have, for example, the fab labs. We don't have the manufacturing equipment. It's really, we have some equipment that we use, some robotics equipment. We have lots of course, great media equipment. But people are really kind of the cornerstone for us. The biggest challenge then is attendance. So there's some weeks where all the facilitators will come and no one from the community drops in. And then other weeks where only one of us can show up and 15 people come with families with small children and we're trying to work with all of them. So that's been the most consistent challenge, but we think it's really valuable, so we keep the space open on this consistent basis regardless, so people can see it as a resource to drop in or a more consistent social space. So we also hold more structured workshops as well. For these, the participants usually have to register in advance, and we offer the workshops on a sliding pay scale, meaning that we often have the equipment there for them to use at the space if they'd like to, if they can't perhaps afford it, or if at this time they don't know if they want to make an investment in the equipment. And then if they'd like to purchase the equipment, they can do so. So we really try to keep it as open as possible so everyone can get a chance to work on the different projects. So we've held workshops on Arduino, wearable tech. We have an example of a lily pad that I have draped over there. We made a nice quilt with that, so that's an example of some of the wearable tech and the possibilities for the technology. We've done electronic paper art, Adafruit light-up jewelry. We did a Raspberry Pi media server workshop, and other just open workshops where people can work on whatever they'd like and then demonstrate it to the rest of the community. So attendance has varied from upwards of 70 people to really small work groups of 3 or 4. We've also held workshops to invite people in. So this is an example of an invited guest. Gunther Cox, who's a college student, came in and showed off his robot, who is actually a full-size human robot that was made all out of recycled materials. And so he brings it around and lets different groups help him troubleshoot or work on different aspects of this robot together. So people can kind of have discussions around, like, why is robotics seem so prohibitively expensive? And here's an example of a way that you could do it with easy to find materials or those that you can recycle. So we find that these structured workshops tend to bring in families and many other people who are coming for the first time to Amherst Media. So it's great for the Access Center too, because it's really bringing in new people that maybe didn't know about what was going on and what was offered at Amherst Media itself. But one of the biggest challenges is the physical resources and kind of planning ahead of time. So one of the ways that we've done that is we've partnered again with UMass. And UMass has helped support some of the funding through a grant. And so that's one of the benefits of that second point I made about creating a local network. So we've tried to create a local network, and so I'm going to speak now to some of the activities that are outside of Amherst Media that are part of these different partnerships. So the first is our after-school program. The middle school is part of an established program at the school called VELA, which it offers students different enrichment after-school activities already, and we partnered with them, and we're offering the Makerspace as one aspect of that already existing program. So our program is based upon a model of connected learning, which is coming out of the Digital Media and Learning Research Hub, where education is thought to work best if it's driven by student interest and based in local and personally relevant concerns. Ideally, the learning is meant to bridge interest between home, school, and the community. And it's really focused on peer support and mentorship. And so if you think about the discussion of what makerspace models look like, it really fits well into this. Though this is often used for ideas about media, it also works to think about maker activities. So our makerspace is split between time at the school and time at Amherst Media. The students learn about some new open source hardware and software, like the Arduino, like the lily pad I have there. They also learn about coding, they make art, they make media as well, of course. And we try to make this really responsive to the students. So just yesterday, for example, we had a really great workshop where a few of the students were learning nice ways to take video with their cell phones, because many of them were really interested in the cell phones. So they were doing that, while another group was working on a robotics project where they had a buzzer trying to play a popular song. So just trying to think of creative and fun ways to keep it really relevant for the students. But in terms of challenges, attendance is not always consistent. So we found that longer term projects can be kind of difficult to sustain. But in addition to some of the shorter term projects, so for example, we had an egg drop day, so we do some of these shorter term projects, we also encourage students to try to come up with local issues or local concerns that we could try to possibly solve or think about possible solutions for. So think of like typical hackathons or makeathons. We try to get the students to kind of do that on a micro level. So the students actually have a really great example of that in the open science course that UMass runs. So this is an example here of one of the students from the open source science class coming to demonstrate to my students in the after school program. So this student from the open source science class had created an aerial photo mechanism where she had 3D printed kind of an apparatus that held an infrared camera that was sent up with a helium balloon, and it could take pictures down and trace invasive species of plants. And so the students got to see the 3D printed part, they got to talk about infrared light, invasive species, and then we sent the balloon up. So we got some really fun aerial photos of the students trying to make words and pictures with their bodies on the ground. So we had a really fun time kind of having that intergenerational mentorship and that time to socialize with between the college students and the middle school students that I work with in this program. And of course though, this is kind of the theme here, right? The challenge is the rigorous schedule of many college students, many of whom are also working now, in addition to going to school. So despite this challenge, though, of coordinating the large teams, we really think that the larger the team with the more diverse expertise and interests, the better. So for example, this after-school program I'm showing you here, this is from the last time we ran it, but this year's after-school program is led by myself. I'm a communication graduate student, an education graduate student who has a background in media production among youth. We have a high school student who he has interest in all sorts of electronics and computers. And then we have a woman from one of the local colleges who's a computer science student. So we have all these different kind of perspectives and different ages to really try to create a nice social space for learning. And lastly, we really try to take every opportunity for dialogue about what we're doing, like here at this panel, and trying to talk to people, see what others are doing, because we think it's a great way to build on and always be reflective about what we're doing. So this is an example of myself and one of the open science students who had created an air quality sensor to test air quality in Springfield. We're here down at the Maker Faire in DC, tabling, trying to talk to people. We've tabled at the local schools, at the local universities. We've been to the local Barnes & Noble mini Maker Faire. We ran a space at the Hack for Western Mass. So basically just anytime we hear an opportunity where we could go out and talk about what we're doing and hear what others are doing, we jump at it and we take that opportunity. And I think that's really important in part because we always have to be reflective about what we're doing. Is it still actually serving the community, or has it just become kind of a hobbyist space? So we're trying to do that as best we can. So the last place where we do that is on our series, because again, we have the benefit of being in an access center. So we have a series called Makers at Amherst Media, which we film at Amherst Media. The series consists of interviews between makers or organizers and our host, Stephen Brewer. And so we film these kind of discussions about maker activities, and we put them up on our channels and online for people to see. So to conclude, we have really, been trying to talk through here 3 different points that I think are really important. Our efforts have really emphasized the need for context of social support. So meeting people where they are, where communities are already gathering. Secondly, creating a network that draws on the resources and the expertise that's already in your community. I talked about already really established institutions like the schools and the universities, but we're also reaching out to groups like the Youth Action Coalition, who works with marginalized youth in our community. So any groups that are already doing something, if you can bring them in so that you can share this expertise and you can create these connections and share resources, that's a great way to kind of build these connections. And the last is to take every opportunity you can for dialogue. Different disciplines, different interests. really reaching out wherever you can. One, it's a great way to kind of publicize what you're doing, talk to people, but it's also for a way to always be sure that you're being responsive to what's going on. Like, what are the schools looking for, but what are the parents looking for? What are the students looking for? And, you know, who's already doing work out there? Are you doubling work that's already been done? And so making sure that you're always open for that dialogue and thinking about it in a critical way is the last, piece of advice, I suppose, or strategy that we employ. So if you have any questions about what we're doing, please feel free to email me or come talk to me after. And this is some information about our website. So if you can take a check, you can check out our website, some of our activities, and those videos I talked about, that series that we've started. So thank you.
So now we have Makerspace Connecticut. What is a makerspace?
A makerspace, in my opinion, is a multi-use space. It's different things to different people. There are all different sizes of makerspaces, from smaller ones that maybe have some basic electronics equipment, maybe a 3D printer, things like that, up to places like we're trying to start, or Tech Shop, which has over $1 million worth of equipment and can build almost anything. Some of the things that we'd like to see in a bigger makerspace: help support the community, help support invention, product creation, help support larger products. We see a makerspace as being a community resource, and the more equipment and the more things you offer, the more of an impact you can make in a regional sort of a way.
I think one of the philosophies that we talk about a lot is equipment, education, and community, and that's really the intersection of all of those things. For people to come in, maybe you've always had an interest in learning, like how to work a Haas equipment, or there might be sewing equipment and things like that, how to make bags or something, and you've never really had the opportunity or the nerve to walk into that kind of environment. You have a community there that's embracing for people to invite into a makerspace and assist one another. So it becomes a strong network when you get that kind of mix of some people that are sewing, some people that are working on Bluetooth, the amazing kinds of things. You can get quilts that light up and speak to you, suitcases that can charge, briefcases that can charge. The amazing mix when you have that kind of opportunity for collaboration is really unusual, and I think that's a key issue in a makerspace, is to have that community, and also classes, so that if someone really wants to learn something, we're hoping to have about 40 classes a week. If someone really wants to pick up a new skill or is just intrigued, you have the opportunity to have education, and it's more accessible education, where you're not signing up for a 15-week program at a university that might be really arduous with your schedule. You can maybe get a glimpse or an overview within 2 to 4 to 6 sessions of something, and at a price point that's possibly more attainable as well.
In our particular case, some of the things that we hope to offer are actually a complete machining center, where you can get on either a traditional lathe or mill, or you can work with a high-tech machine such as a Haas CNC machining center or a CNC lathe. A complete welding and fabrication shop, where you can actually weld metal, work on a blacksmith forge, plasma cut something either by hand or using a CNC guided machine. Things like a complete wood shop, including up to like a ShopBot, which is actually a CNC powered cutting and engraving tool. We want to offer things like pottery, glass blowing, traditional skills, as well as the high-tech skills. These are artisan-type skills that we would like to preserve and pass on. Large project area where you could work on vehicles, let's say, or something on a large scale. Even things like bicycles. You could build your own custom bicycle frames and have access to a complete assortment of professional tools that a bike shop would typically only have. So if you're interested in bikes, you've got everything you need right there to build one or fine-tune it, assemble it, disassemble it, and so on. Things like finishing, powder coating, sandblasting, bead blasting, electronics, robotics. We expect to have all the equipment that you would need to develop electronic circuits, things like oscilloscopes and custom PCB mills. Nowadays, you can actually take a circuit board and machine it and end up with a brand new circuit board that never existed in a matter of a couple hours, and then go ahead and build that circuit and actually prototype it. The idea is to be able to make just about anything at a reasonable cost. We're going to offer things like plastics, plastic injection, digital media. You know, one of the things that I find exciting are the large format printing, vehicle wraps, things of that nature. Basically, we want to offer the biggest and broadest assortment of equipment to really allow people to, again, make just about anything.
I think when you ask what is a makerspace, the other thing is it's really an activator or an accelerator for people that have a solution. And in our life, there's so many things that just enervate you and piss you off. It's like, why does your soap dispenser always clog? Or just little things in your life that are annoying. And there are a lot of people that are truly willing to take on these challenges and come up with solutions for seemingly small ideas or large ideas. A makerspace enables them to access equipment and tools to create solutions for that piece of their life that they're trying to. But also, it enables people to start cottage businesses. You know, in the digital fabrication lab, people could perchance start a business doing vehicle wraps. There's going to be embroidery and sewing machines. So there are people that could start businesses, you know, in sewing or creating sporting equipment and things like that, or doing fundraisers for their schools. There are so many opportunities, and I think when you look at a makerspace, in a lot of ways it's a springboard for innovation. Mayor Bloomberg created several opportunities for makerspace in the boroughs. I believe they have 5 of them. Some of them are specifically themed, but he used this as a real spur for economic stimulation in the New York area. And I think that's a real key piece to understand that 20, 30, 40 years from now, we're going to be working in such a different way. People are going to be piecing together careers that once were always going to a large corporation. And I think the more latitude we give people to create opportunities or things that really interest them and give them a venue to explore those, I think is a real help for the society.
I think one of the most exciting things coming down the road is the Internet of Things. I mean, everybody here knows what the Internet is. You know, it's essentially networking and connectivity. The Internet of Things is where all that hits the real world, where you have actual products that interact with the Internet with people all across the world. Things like the Nest thermostat that can be programmed remotely, that can be, you know, programmed to react to different things that happen. A lot of those products are not going to be made by big companies. They're going to be made by very small companies or even individuals that have a good idea. And a makerspace is a place for them to go and, you know, to make these happen, where they can fail 10, 15 times in a row using their own funds until they actually come up with a working product. The cost of failure is something that has been reduced to about 1/100th of what it used to cost, and that's critical. The Internet of Things is going to be worth trillions of dollars in the next 10 years. It is going to be absolutely huge. And the makerspaces are a way for people to make a meaningful contribution to that and to have access to these tools and equipments and technologies never available, you know, to the public in any meaningful way before.
And so there's a lot of anecdotal information about things that have been created in makerspaces, and you really like to tell the story of the Square.
The Square credit card reader, I'm sure you're familiar with that. That particular device was invented by 2 restaurateurs in the California area. And they had this great idea, and they went to venture capital and said, look, we want to develop this hardware so you can put it on your phone and run a credit card. And the venture capital said, no way, you guys are crazy. There's no way this is ever going to happen. It's a multi-billion-dollar entrenched industry. You know, you can't break into that.
Right, finance, banking.
So the guy said, fine. And it just so happens that the first tech shop opened up in the San Mateo, San Francisco area. They spent about 3 months. They spent, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 of their own money. They built a series of prototypes, and they finally got a prototype that worked. It hooked into your iPhone. You could swipe a card. It would transfer the funds. It actually worked. They went back to venture capital, and they produced this prototype, and they took the venture capitalist's own personal credit cards, swiped it through, made their first $500, showed them how it actually worked, famously kept the $500 they took, and the rest is history. It is now a $7 billion company, and it would not exist yet if it hadn't been for the availability of a tech shop to build a working prototype. I mean, it's one thing to have a good idea, But when you have something that actually works, an actual product, something that you can see and demonstrate, like on Shark Tank or these new maker programs, that is a huge difference. And that's the type of thing that makerspaces can enable. And it's not just one guy working alone. It is that community, both worldwide, things like the RepRap printer. The whole consumer 3D printer thing started in England, in Bath, which is a beautiful place. And they actually had a professor and some graduate students. It's not so much the hardware that makes a 3D printer work, it's the software that was so revolutionary. I've built several 3D printers myself. It's not that hard, but I wouldn't want to have to write that software from scratch. And the nice thing is there's a whole community of people worldwide that are building, innovating, improving these things. And that's why when MakerBot, which made an open source 3D printer, went closed source, it really upset people all over the world because they said, your printer is designed on open source technology and softwares, and now you're closing it off to everybody, and that really upset a lot of people. But at any rate, MakerBot was sold to Stratasys for something like $400 million. And the entire thing was based on Arduino, an affordable open source programming board. And if you come to where we're down the hall, that's what we're doing. We're showing you how to program an Arduino, hook it up to an electronics project, and actually get it functioning. Coding is power. The world runs on microprocessors, and that's all what this Arduino and Raspberry Pi stuff is about. We out of time?
Did we fulfill your time?
We can move on if you're ready.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, why don't we move on then to Chris Anderson, who's going to tell us about collaborating high-tech, low-tech, old-tech, no-tech.
Am I able to flip through? Because I feel like I'm going
Yes,
to go fast.
you absolutely may.
Cool. One of the things that happened with having a makerspace that hurt television was the TV Be Gone by Mitch Albom. It's a universal little gadget that you press one button and it turns off the TV, doesn't matter what it is.
He's coming in.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
they have these workshops. He came through and taught it at ASU20 just recently. You build your own, you learn how to solder, but with that one activity, you have this thing called the TV Be Gone, and you can just turn off someone's TV just walking by. That is pretty cool.
Kind of like an EMP.
Yeah, just turns it off. You
Not
can go,
that permanent, maybe?
Yeah, just go into a sports bar and cause havoc. So I'm Chris Anderson. I work at ASU20 in Providence, Rhode Island, and I manage the Media Arts program, which started with just a darkroom in '94, and it's still around. It's the only publicly accessible darkroom in Rhode Island. But since then, we've expanded to include other forms of media, so web, audio-video production, graphic design, and we kind of integrate with the other programs that are there. So I'll give a quick overview of what ACE20 is, how we got there, and then I'll talk specifically about the industries which formed over time with these siloed programs to become one kind of one space that you can be at ASU20. So that's our vision, a just world where all the people can realize their creative potential. I guess maybe should I stand up? Can you see me? So it's our 30th anniversary this year, and mine. Just turned 30. Thank you. This used to be, it's not today, but this was a wonderful Providence, and then that one got a little better, thanks to Buddy Cianci, maybe a little bit. So it started with a few people in 1985, just a space at above the Performing Arts Center in Providence, just a studio space, $800. Things were going good. They were asked to leave politely to go somewhere else, so they ended up getting a building on Richmond Street in 1986, and after that they purchased their first building in 94, which is the Empire Street Complex. And through just pure volunteerism, enough people wanted to see a space where they can present their artwork unjuried and uncensored in all ages. And so through that, in '92 they made their dream come true and had a building. And now today, so 93, the Empire Street was made. In 2007, the Dreyfus Hotel building, and right next to it, so it's like that's right there, the Mercantile building. So the Mercantile building is where the print shop and the Fab Lab and the Media Art Space is. The dark room's still over on Empire Street on the same floor as our youth program. So the mission statement says, the biggest thing to walk away with here is that our exhibits and performances will be unjuried, uncensored, and open to the public. So we want to be able to give a place where you can create your work, learn how to do it, even have a place to live if need be, especially for those who can't normally obtain it, whether it's because of financial or other limitations. Yeah, and especially with like a social justice, track to it, especially with media. That's my own mission as well. So we're pretty open and transparent with our policies and equal pay policy. So from Umberto Cranca, who started it, to the person who just got hired yesterday, we're paid the same. We also hold an original art and music policy, so no cover bands can come. You have to have original music. We boycott the BMI ASCAP blanket licenses for that reason. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on. All artists run. Our buildings are always 100% filled. Most of the units for artists to live in are income restriction. So, to have a loft space in downtown Providence is pretty great. And so we put a cap on that so that we have opportunities for everyone. So this is Empire Street. This is where the dark room started, and it's where the Fab Lab started when we only had one building, and it's expanded since then into the Mercantile. So on the first floor, we have commercial tenants. The third and fourth floor of the Dreyfus and the Mercantile are artists' live-work studios. And the second floor of Empire Street's a youth studio. We also have a black box theater, bar, restaurant, performance space, 3 galleries. So we do a lot every year. So those are programs. We have a big block party every year, Foo Fest. And then our newest program is Practice Practice, where it's kind of like consultancy, where people can come in and get a tour of our space, or we go to them, to your city or to your organization, and work with either the city or a nonprofit. So Live Arts is the stage and also a black box theater. In our youth program, which is really great, we have different tracks that they can go into: photography, performance, and I guess they kind of combine a couple now since then, communications, like graphic design. But what's cool about this is that even kids that are in custody of the state we go to them while they're in custody. They have a mentor. They learn photography there. And when they're able to get out, they can come to ASU20 and continue on. Those are our live-work studios. We still have a communal space on the third floor on Empire Street to kind of keep the tradition going with how they started it. So they have a shared kitchen and bathrooms, but they have their own live-work studio space. It's a great group of people, and everybody has to be an active, creative individual in some way. And they have to do 5 hours of volunteer time. They get a couple blocks of time at the industry. So if you're a resident, you have a little more access to come in and start making stuff. Discounts on classes too. So yeah, the industries. This is our holiday sale on December 5th. So stop by. We'll have a bar. A couple pictures of the Fab Lab, the first floor. That's with the CNC router. And this is our editing suite downstairs. This is me pretending to teach someone for the photo. We started doing podcasting down there, and now our latest endeavor is to partner with a couple other nonprofits in Providence to start a low-power FM radio station. So we just got that. Yeah, WFOO is our call sign, so we're able to keep the foo going. This is the back of the Mercantile building, and this is where you enter. So the print shop is really the one that started these industries before they were called the cottage industries. So yeah, started a community print shop, and they were looking at different models, so they came up with their own membership program. A lot of it's volunteer-based, so you can pay a lower price if you volunteer there. And then the labs came along and modeled after the print shop's model. And AS220 Photo modeled off the print shop. And then, so Photo expanded to Media Arts. And so now we have like these 3 memberships, and it was just like too much. So we just made one membership contract. Everybody can, and then it promotes crossover and cross-discipline stuff. So we have people in the print shop that might make a letterpress poster and then go to the laser cutter and make a really intricate border or etch onto it. And it's great too to have the labs next to a media studio, because you can walk over with your strobe light and fix it, or like the DIY lighting. We made our own lighting. We've had workshops on like making your own Steadicam. So there's like it's a really great resource, and being able to teach classes on like soldering, like, oh, how to fix your XLR cables. So now you don't have the pile of XLR cables anymore, and people can just drop in and do it. It's like it's a free electronics workstation you can just drop in. So most of the resources here cost, you can pay as you go, so it's $25 for a block of time. That's either 2 hours or 4 hours. But then there's other resources where you can just drop in. So like the Media Lab, it's got the full Adobe suite. You can do video editing right in our Media Lab, no cost. But if you want to use our shooting area, it's $25 for 2 hours, but you can tear off as much green screen paper as you want. You can use our softbox lights that are available. So that's it's like the kind of the community table space at the labs. It's the youth program. So we're working more and more to integrate the youth into our program. So they'll learn laser cutting. They'll learn 3D printing, vinyl cutter. And we also offer the Fab Academy. It's a 6-month program at the labs, and it works with MIT. Center for Bits and Atoms came up with it, and this is where you do the learn to make almost anything course, and it's been great. There's some really cool stuff that come out of it, and they have a really interesting way of networking. So that I think it's once a week they'll have this what do you call it, kind of a video conference where every makerspace that's doing Fab Academy is all together, and there's like 30 webcams on the screen, and everybody kind of goes along and goes over their project. So it's a way to kind of connect everyone together using something that they probably made. That's like some live streaming program. So I see that being a really cool way to kind of integrate, using TV and media centers together. And we have the print shop, so I just wanted to make sure to show the print shop. We got so many different things, and this is kind of the old tech stuff where it's still around. And Providence itself has a really big printmaking community. But being able to be loud on your poster can be just as effective as being on the radio or TV. So this is the Media Arts program. Let's move fast. We have artist lectures, and I'd like to start, making videos of those and putting them on the radio when it comes time to be on the air. But yeah, so we've done everything from we've actually hosted like Action Speaks at AS220, which was a radio show, to wet plate collodion, Civil War era glass plate negatives. That was just done last week, a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and so that's our. I'll go through this. So we offer workshops on it. So if you want to learn how to use the thing that we have, you just take a class, and then you get checked off, and then you now have permissions to go on our online calendar. It really helped to have like some coders around, because then we're able to make an online reservation calendar for free. It's really nice. We can track people's times and be able to reserve time ahead of time. And it's all through this membership. So you can either pay as you go, kind of like the cell phone plan or a gym, or you can do a monthly membership where you pay $40 a month, and if you volunteer 12 hours, usually like 3-4 hour shifts, you can get 8 blocks to use per month. And if you stick around for 3 months, you can get a key to the space to do it 24/7. You can come in anytime you want to use it. And then we have like monthly membership meetings, so you really start to become one with the space, and you start to volunteer and like, oh, what would be great? It'd be great if we had this, or if we could fix this, or organize the holiday sale. And that's where it really gets, it's really cool to see the community come together, around technology and all the like-minded people looking for more experiments. So these are our key members right here, and it's it's growing. It's good. Looking for more media people though. Yeah, and then this is our the next thing to do is radio. So we're partnering with 3 other organizations. Brown Student Community Radio already streams stuff, so they have it's exciting to see there'll be a new community of people that will be on the air with AS220. So I'm curious to see how these communities are going to mix together and start, getting into the labs, and we'll see what happens next. And we also have a really cool thing coming up, which it's a cultural exchange between 2 youth programs, our program and the one in Ukraine. And we're going to be doing these neat, creative reporting where we'll be live streaming with each other, and we'll have a translator, and we want to do more experiments with media and video production to be able to share ideas together. And I don't know. I see the radio coming into play to be able to produce a broadcast that we're going to do everything through a science fiction lens, so I don't know, it might be kind of neat to see that. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Let's just go back to this slide. And so we tried to leave a few minutes for questions. Question?
Yeah, I just had a question about the staffing in Amherst. You're talking about you had up to 4 people that would attend one of the open hour times, and you're talking about the high school student and the college teacher and stuff. I just was wondering how those people were paid. So are you full-time staff and you just commit sometime to the makerspace, then that's out of the franchise fees, or how does the staffing get paid for?
The staffing gets paid for because we've been building on those partnerships. So for example, some of those that are working at the after-school program with me are getting paid either from the school's grant for that after-school program, or they're volunteering as part of something for their college to volunteer. I'm a volunteer at at Amherst Media at the moment, but also our partnership with UMass had brought in a little bit of funds to help us pay some of the facilitators. Right now, we're operating completely in terms of volunteers for drop-in. For our after-school program, it's half of us are volunteers, the other half are getting paid from the school.
So it's all separate from the cable. I mean, none of it is out of your which
Yeah.
is happening.
No, that's right. Although it's worth pointing out that since we're squatting in Amherst Media's space, as it were, that we have the advantage that Amherst Media is staffed. And so there are people that lock the doors and make sure that things get cleaned up, and that, that there is that other aspect of staffing. And I'm hopeful that as we move forward in terms of having a membership model, that the membership model for the makerspace will be an add-on to the membership that Amherst Media provides. And so when we do have something where it might be people with a sliding scale of commitment to the makerspace or key access or something like that, that we'd have an opportunity to charge higher rates of membership, and that we could simply build on the membership structure that's already in place. Other questions about, or answers about staffing? Okay, question?
Can I just ask the room, is anybody successfully doing that, have a collaboration between a makerspace and a community media center? We have a new makerspace in our town, and we've had just barely contact with them. And so I'm just wondering if people do have a shared membership or a discounted membership between the two organizations. Is anybody doing that yet?
So there are a few others. When Jim gave a talk at, Jim Lesko, our director, gave a talk at the last Alliance for Community Media Northeast Conference, there was another group there that was talking about it. The Independent Media Center in Urbana, for example, is the makers. They have a makerspace that is in their space, and so they're aligned together. It seems to me that there are huge opportunities for overlap. I mean, as you pointed out, making videos is making. I mean, we've been makerspaces all along, really. And another point of alignment is helping people recognize that to document and share the work that you've done. Video is a great way to do that. It's a huge benefit to being able to show nice, concise videos of how things work. We have a television program where we interview people, and so that people can get the word out and hear more about what we're doing. So there are great opportunities for alignment.
On the Cape Cod Media Center, and it's interesting because they have a lot of space. But whether they're interested in hosting a makerspace is a different issue, because they need to bring in revenue because they bought this big building. What they've been doing is facilitating the creation of the Cape Cod Makers community, which ties right into what you're talking about, Steve. They said, you come meet at our facility, we will go ahead and help you get the word out. And so that group has now come together over the last couple of years, and the latest that I'm reading is that this group is looking to go ahead and get their hands on a building in the Falmouth Technology Park, because keep in mind that the Upper Cape, you have Falmouth, you have Woods Hole, you have all of the Woods Hole, MBI, all of that stuff up there, and whether you realize it or not, everything has been coming out of that scientific community, and that's where all the ROVs, all of the ocean technology is being built. And the theme for this coming May's 2016 Smarter Cape Summit is the blue economy, all totally tying into how does the Cape build a larger innovation economy based upon the blue economy. It's separate from the green economy, it's the blue economy. Anything to do with water, we're having to deal with major water quality issues. We've just gone through a huge process with the EPA and the state DEP, and it's big time.
We've got time for maybe just one more question.
Well, I just actually wanted to give a little testimonial about relationship. Ours is just starting.
Good.
But one of our board members went to $30 computer, which was pretty awesome. We're looking how to make that now HD with our new server, but it worked with tell you. And the opposite was true. We had Makerspace come in and get a membership with us, and they were able to rent lights and equipment to do an animation class. So, I mean, we're just at the starting of this kind of crossness, so if anybody else is doing stuff like that, I'd love to hear about what they're doing.
Another place you might want to check is with the people in Worcester, the WCCA, that their building is going to be renovated. The tenant that's on the third and fourth floor is probably going to move out. And there are two maker groups in Worcester that are now moving into town from out by the college into downtown.
I was going to mention artist in residency programs or things like that. Even the artists, like to be able to host someone to come in and spend a month in your space and getting creative with all the tools that are there. I mean, they'll see things that you probably don't see, or like there could be this old technology that they would just fall in love with and wanna do something with it. There's even like individual crowdfunding things that happen too. So you can, someone raised $1,700 to come to AS220 to be able to spend that money on like our supplies, on construction, to be able to use our tools. Some other times we like love to just be able to say, here's our space, like what can you do with it? And it's a really great way to be able to help the artist, help whatever mission they're on, and it also you might walk away with a new something that they're contributing towards your space as well.
So we've reached the end of the time. I don't want to run over if possible, but I'd like to thank you very much for coming to the panel, and I'd like to thank Brian Patton and Deborah Sositsky and Chris Anderson and Christine Olson. Let's give them a hand.